Start?
Start now.
In 1951, the Korean episode started. And I had two friends who were called up into the Army. And for whatever reason, I decided that I would go and enlist in the Army. And so I did. At that time, I could have had a deferral because I was in the second or third year of college. And I went to Fort Belvoir, which was outside of Washington, D.C., and spent the 6 weeks training there. And at that time, the unusual thing about training there was no blacks in the service, in the Army. They had a separate camp there. I was then, after basic training, I was assigned to Japan. And we went to Fort Drake, I believe it was. And there they split up the soldiers. The 1st Cavalry Division had huge casualties and were replaced. Before they got replaced, they got a lot of reserves sent to them. And I happened to be one of those. We landed at Incheon, went over to the Army grouping, and the sergeant there asked me if I could read a map. I said, "No, sir." He said, "I don't believe you." He said, "You had a couple of years in engineering, didn't you?" I said, "Yes." Well, he said, "You're going to be a map reader." And I was assigned to be a radio operator for the Forward Observer in a heavy mortar company. And what that meant was that there was what they call a main line of resistance, which is the front lines. And in between that is no man's land. And the Forward Observer and the radio operator had to map the territory so that they could send in missiles, mortar rounds if they needed to. Every other week, they were asked to go on duty, scouting duty, which meant one squad of soldiers, and the radio operator and the Forward Observer would go north until they were hit. And they had a banner that they would have with them that would show the F-86, the pilots up above, that they were there so not to hurt them or fire on them. And we'd go until we got hit. And we did get hit quite often. And to pat myself on the back once, one of the soldiers got hit with a machine gun bullet, and his corporal or sergeant asked if anybody would go down and pick him up. And my Forward Observer says, "Stan and I'll go down." And he said, "No, you won't, because you're not part of the groupie." So I was there. I did get a round hit, and because of that, I finally got a 10% VA disability pay when I got 90 years old.
So something landed near you and threw you off the ground.
Oh, yeah. It was a 60 millimeter mortar round that landed on the side of me. So I saw a little bit of action there. Not tremendous. And then the group got sent home. No, excuse me, not home. They went to Hokkaido with Japan. They were replaced because they were called unfit for duty. And so we went to Hokkaido, Japan, and there were 3 places there were three places we stayed. 3 regiments were divided. One went to this place, the other this place, and one the other place. So I spent 2 years in Japan, which was kind of nice, and stayed there until early 53, and was sent home on duty. What they call it? Anyway,
I've seen some pictures of the Japan thing, and it looked like you were having a good time, at least in the pictures.
I did. We went. I spent a couple of weeks learning the language at night at the university in town, and I could speak I could carry on a conversation, a basic conversation. I wouldn't even think of saying I was fluent, or when I could ask questions, I could go anywhere. And we had a good time there, a very good time. And then finally, I decided I was in Japan there, being part of the G2 grouping. We had to pull sleds with the, I say pull them, yeah, you kind of move them, basically. And I went to the captain and said, I had a mortar round hit me in Japan or in Korea, and I don't think I can do this hard work. And he said, well, what are you asking? I said, I want to be the mailman. He said, the mailman, we got one. I said, but he's going home. So the next day or so, the mailman came in and said, come on, Stan, you're the new mailman. And so I stayed there for a while. Then I went back to Korea. The Koreans had a riot in one of the prisoner of war camps. And they captured Captain General Boatner, I think it was. And I was called back because of my past experience. I was called back in one of the little engineering groups that were going to break the not concentration camps, but you know what I mean.
No, I don't.
Where they keep the prisoners.
Okay, you're going
to
break into it or break?
Well, the general went into the camp and was captured and held there for a while. So the military decided they were going to break down these large prisoner of war camps. And so they had to have groups come back from Japan to do that work. And I went back and became the I was the head of, I can't recall, I did all the drafting and that.
So it was intellectual work.
Huh?
It was intellectual work rather than...
I did get asked if I wanted to go to officer training because I had a very high score, and I didn't elect to do that. So we got on the boat, came back early 1953, came off the boat, and the Red Cross was there with milk, full fat milk, regular milk, and we couldn't eat it or drink it because we've been so used to skimmed milk. When I say we couldn't, it wasn't tasteful.
This was back when you got back to the United States?
Yeah.
In 53?
All right. What?
I'm going to pause it. Good. That was another 10 minutes. Good. Well, we can call it a day there. But